Imagine, if you will, the deepest quiet of night. Maybe you're somewhere remote, like Taos, New Mexico. The world is hushed, still. Yet for some people, there's a sound. A persistent low hum that cuts through that silence. A sound that, well, most others simply do not perceive at all. And this isn't just a local thing, an oddity in one place. We hear reports from Bristol in England, Auckland in New Zealand, from across Canada, the Australian outback. Thousands worldwide hear something the rest of us don't. Tonight we're doing a deep dive into this elusive mystery. The global hum. What is it? A secret signal. Some strange quirk of the earth itself. Or maybe something stranger.
It really is striking how widespread it is. We're talking different continents, reports going back decades. And the description is often remarkably similar. A low-frequency thrumming sound. People say it's like a truck idling, constantly, or some distant engine that just never stops. For some, it's faint, barely there, maybe just a mild annoyance. But for others, it's relentless. It becomes kind of torment, robbing them of sleep, of peace. And the paradox, the real heart of the mystery, is that most of us hear absolutely nothing. It forces you to ask, what happens when reality isn't shared? This isn't just some unexplained noise. It makes you question the very nature of perception.
Okay, so let's try to unpack this a bit. To really get a handle on the hum, we need to know who is hearing it and where. There's a Canadian science teacher, Glenn McPherson, who spent years really dedicated himself to documenting this. He created something pretty remarkable, the worldwide hum map. And the data on there, it's quite astounding, actually. It's logged nearly 13,000 cases, 13,000 reports of the hum from every inhabited continent. Think about that. 13,000 people independently reporting this. McPherson himself, he stresses this, and I'm quoting him here, the numbers are too large to dismiss as mass hysteria or delusion. He says people arrive at this independently, and the geographic and demographic spread is striking. Apparently, the people who report hearing it are often middle-aged, and it's usually heard in quiet places, sort of semi-rural areas. And it really comes through most strongly at night, when all the other background noise just fades away.
Yeah, that sheer volume of data McPherson gathered, that's what makes this demand serious attention. It's not just scattered stories. Almost 13,000 people, different places, different lives, all reporting this very specific kind of sound independently. It gives it a certain weight, doesn't it? You can't just brush that aside easily. And these patterns you mentioned, the quiet settings, nighttime prominence, the age group, they do suggest possibilities. Maybe it is some kind of very subtle external sound, something easily masked by, say, daytime traffic or activity, or maybe it points towards certain people having a heightened auditory sensitivity, like they can perceive frequencies or sounds that most of us just naturally filter out. It does make you wonder, what else might be humming along just below your threshold of hearing?
So with all this data piling up, the big question, the urgent one, is what's causing it? What is the source? And this, I imagine, is where the investigation gets really complex, like entering a maze with no clear exit. Scientists, engineers, they started looking naturally at the obvious things first, our own creations. Could it be industrial and mechanical sources, things we've built?
That's the logical place to start, absolutely. Our world is full of machinery, infrastructure humming away, so theories pointed to things like high-pressure gas pipelines or maybe electrical transformers, the low drone from factories miles away. And sometimes, there seemed to be a connection. There was an engineer, Steve Kohlhaas, who looked into this for about 10 years. He found quite a few reports did come from areas near gas pipelines, so a potential link there. It offers a concrete source, something identifiable.
Right, and that feels like it could be it, doesn't it? A clear cause, a direct link, problem solved. But then you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and it gets complicated again. The big challenge is just stark. In so many places where the hum is reported, there simply isn't any of that infrastructure around. People hear it in really quiet, almost pristine, natural areas, miles from any obvious industrial source. So while that theory might explain some localized cases, it just doesn't seem to cover the global scale of it.
Exactly. Those industrial explanations, they seem plausible for specific incidents, sure, but they fail when you look globally. If it was just factories or pipelines, why reports from the remote Australian bush or quiet suburbs far from heavy industry? It's not just that the infrastructure isn't always there, it's that the hum is there, regardless, in all sorts of environments. So that forces the search wider. We have to look for something more universal.
Okay, so if it's not our machines, what about nature, the planet itself? Some researchers started wondering, could the Earth itself be making this sound? Which brings us to the second idea. Environmental and natural causes. Now, scientists do know the Earth generates a constant, very low-frequency hum. They call it microseisms. Apparently it's caused by ocean waves, huge waves, hitting the continents, constantly pounding, creating these tiny vibrations. It's quite a poetic idea, really, the Earth humming. But there's a major catch, a fundamental problem with this theory. The Earth's actual hum, its frequency is far, far below anything humans can hear. You need incredibly sensitive seismometers, scientific instruments, just to detect it. So it's highly unlikely to be the direct source of the sound people actually physically hear.
Precisely. It's an appealing thought, the Earth singing to itself, but the physics don't match the reports. It just underscores how hard it is to find a natural source that's both global and audible in the way people describe. So if it's not external sources, not industrial, not natural, what about something closer to home? Something
Yeah.
internal?
Right, this leads down a more personal path. Could the hum actually originate inside the human body? This is the third category, internal human phenomena. Some suggested it could be a very unusual form of tinnitus, the ringing people get, but maybe manifesting as this low rumble instead. Or maybe something called spontaneous otoacoustic emissions, basically. Sounds the inner ear itself generates. There's even talk of a benign venous hum, a sound from blood flow in certain veins, usually harmless and only heard sometimes. It's a compelling possibility that the source isn't out there, but in here.
It definitely raises deep questions about perception, doesn't it?
Right.
Where does the external world end and our internal experience begin? And while things like tinnitus or venous hum are real and relatively common, the hum itself seems different. That specific low rumble, the way it clusters geographically, how it often seems tied to quiet environments, it doesn't quite map perfectly onto typical internal sounds that are usually more random or consistent regardless of location. Even if the origin is internal, the fact that so many report the same specific sound, often triggered by similar external conditions like quiet, it suggests something more complex is going on. It doesn't fully explain the shared nature of the experience across locations.
Okay, so from the deeply personal, we shift again to something potentially more clandestine. What if the hum isn't natural or accidental, but deliberate? A hidden signal. Category 4 explores electromagnetic and military activity. There was a paper back in 2012 from the University of Oklahoma. It made a provocative link between the hum and very low-frequency radio transmissions, ESLF waves. Apparently, these are used by military submarines for long-distance communication. The idea of a secret military signal causing this global hum, it's certainly intriguing, but is there any real evidence?
It's a narrative that definitely grabs the imagination, secret signals, hidden operations. But honestly, there's no conclusive, verifiable evidence that supports this as a global explanation. And maybe more critically, the hum is reported frequently in places that are nowhere near known VLF transmitters. Now, VLF waves can travel very far, but the pattern of hum reports just doesn't neatly overlay the known distribution or strength of these signals. So it remains a fascinating theory, but, well, it lacks that solid, consistent proof needed to make it the primary answer.
So we've looked at industry, the Earth, our own bodies, even secret signals, and none seem to fully explain it. Where does that leave us? This brings us to a fifth idea, perhaps the most subtle and maybe sometimes the hardest one for sufferers to consider: psychological and sensory factors. David Bagley, he's head of audiology at a major hospital in Cambridge, Addenbrooke's. He offers a thoughtful take. He thinks maybe about a third of hum cases might have some clear physical cause, something identifiable, but for the other two-thirds, he suggests it might be more about how people perceive sound, perhaps focusing very intensely on subtle background noises that are actually there, but usually ignored. Or maybe having a kind of heightened auditory sensitivity, allowing them to pick up low frequencies others miss. Now, Bagley is careful here. He says, and I'm quoting again, most people view the hum as a fringe belief because it's so subjective. But when you look at the sheer number of reports, it's obvious something is going on. But isn't that still sort of saying it's all in their head? Even though McPherson's data argues against mass hysteria, it feels like a fine line.
It is a crucial distinction, and you're right to raise that. It's a very important point. Bagley isn't suggesting it's imagined or delusion in the typical sense of all in your head. His idea is more about the mechanism of perception. Maybe the sound is physically present, but incredibly faint. And for some people, their auditory system, perhaps due to sensitivity or focused attention, essentially amplifies it, bringing it into conscious awareness. So the experience is absolutely real, physically real in terms of neurological processing, and deeply impactful. It's just that the trigger might be a subtle external sound combined with an internal perceptual difference. It's trying to scientifically address a subjective reality, bridging that gap between internal experience and external measurement.
Which leads us to maybe the most baffling part of this whole thing. The reason it's still such a stubborn riddle after decades. It's just unbelievably elusive to our technology. Here's the core problem. Standard microphones, normal audio recording gear, they just don't pick it up. Imagine trying to prove something exists when your best tools can't detect it. Sufferers report hearing it even inside soundproof rooms. And, maybe most incredibly, some have reported hearing it inside specially made steel boxes, Faraday cages, designed to block all external radio waves and interference. What does that even mean? When someone's experience is so real, so distressing, but invisible to our instruments.
That right there, that's the monumental challenge for science. How do you measure something that defies measurement? How do you confirm an objective reality for something that resists nearly every conventional detection method we have? And this elusiveness, it's not just a scientific curiosity, it directly fuels the human cost. Because without that objective proof, without external validation, people suffering from the hum can feel incredibly isolated, dismissed, unheard, literally and figuratively, even while they're enduring this intense auditory phenomenon that the rest of us just can't comprehend. The impact is severe. Chronic insomnia is common, constant anxiety. And yes, unfortunately, depression is widespread among sufferers, not being able to escape it, not having its reality acknowledged. It takes an immense toll.
The lengths some people go to, it's truly heartbreaking. Just searching for moment silence. Some sleep with multiple fans going or use really loud white noise machines, just trying to drown out that persistent internal feeling rumble. Others have felt they had no choice but to move, sell their homes, leave their towns entirely. Just chasing silence, chasing a peace that most of us completely take for granted. Imagine being so haunted by a sound that you have to completely upend your life like that. So after all this, what does it all mean? Where do we stand? The global hum remains this profound, unsolved mystery. Is it some rare environmental sound we haven't identified, a strange quirk of human hearing or perception? Or is it truly a signal from somewhere, or something completely unknown? Science, with all its tools and methods, hasn't cracked it yet. There's no single accepted answer. As Glenn McPherson, the man who's documented so much of this, puts it, what these people are reporting is certainly real for them. He says, the hum is a genuine phenomenon, even if its source remains a mystery. It really forces us to confront the limits of what we know and what we can perceive.
It does. In a world that feels increasingly explained, where information is everywhere, the hum is a powerful reminder that some mysteries just resist easy answers. It challenges our basic ideas about reality, perception, proof. It shows us that even an unheard reality, something most people don't experience, can have devastatingly real consequences for those who do. It demands our attention, our curiosity, and definitely our empathy, even when the objective evidence is, well, elusive.
Until the world's most elusive sound finds its explanation, the hum just continues. An invisible, seemingly inaudible riddle, echoing somewhere just beneath the surface of our collective understanding. Perhaps tonight, as you drift off to sleep, as the world outside gets quiet, maybe listen a little more closely than usual. Who knows what you might hear?